G'day and welcome again to another Campfire Project discussion. And today I have with me, first of all, Andy Bryce from England. How are you, Andy?
I'm great, thank you. Nice to be here.
It's great to have you. And there's those who know Andy, he's an EFT master. And then we have Thomas Graham. How are you, Thomas?
I'm well, Alan, how are you?
Very good, thanks. Again from Australia, in Newcastle, but not the English version. Radio host of FM radio, of Rima FM radio. And we have Paul Stretton-Stephens. How are you, Paul?
I'm fine. How are you?
Very good, thanks. And Paul is a coach and speaker and mentor of men. Welcome to all of you to Campfire, and looking forward to the conversation I'm going to have with you today. Now, we had a bit of a chat. You know, it's getting to that time of year. We talk about Christmas being a special time. It's also a stressful time. It's a time that we're looking for hope. And I thought, you're having a conversation, they're looking at both sides, but looking at what it's like when you're on your own, when you're with a family, whether with your close family or whether you're with a extended or blended family. So I was wondering, Andrew, you sort of mentioned this first off, if you'd like to start us off today's conversation.
Well, I just think of the holiday season as a very complicated time because there's a lot of expectations of us as men, to provide a quality experience for the family, but also in my own experience, my dad was a psychiatric nurse, worked shifts, so sometimes he was working on Christmas Day, he was working on holidays, so it was a bit of a haphazard kind of thing. It wasn't as organized as what I see other people go through. But also, there are a lot of years several years when my father was ill in his later years, and a couple of Christmases he was in a coma induced. So I don't know if that makes it worse. I mean, it's going to be a bad time if it was July, but or September. But having a family member go through something like that can really change things. So there's a lot of ways that Christmas and the holidays can go sideways.
Yeah, so looking at Christmas, having that particular idea of what Christmas is, and then have something that's completely outside of that, how it can impact and make it even a harder time again.
Yeah, it seems to exacerbate a feeling like if you're sitting in a hospital ward, hoping a family member makes it through. That's one way that I've experienced Christmas, and also with the expectations. There was years when I didn't make very much money, and so Christmases weren't what my little girl at the time would have dreamed of. But we always made it through. It was about the family rather than the things.
Yeah, for a lot of men, would you believe, Paul, that a lot of men out there would be focused on what they've actually created, whether they were successful, and base that on what they're able to spend for their families at Christmas time, that sort of thing?
I think it depends on the individual. I mean, listening to Andy's sort of brief story there, I mean, my personal background as a kid, we're moving around with 12 different schools, meant I had 12 different homes. So we were never stable enough to have what I call a good Christmas. So I remember one particular one was we moved, I think, Christmas Eve. So, I mean, Christmas was just cancelled. So those sort of things, you sort of take them forward with you. Because when I went into the services, you could be anywhere on Christmas Day. And you made Christmas Day whenever you got back home. So that could be a couple of days later or a couple of months later, and so it kind of lost its meaning or its impetus at that time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, excellent. Thomas, your experience over Christmas, what sort of things have you experienced?
So obviously there's a massive age difference between Andy and I, and Paul and I. but there's still remnants of what they're both talking about in my experience. Like 2 years ago, I never spent Christmas with my family because my relationship with my mother was quite strained because of a certain situation that happened where she believed the people that created the accusation, and so I never spent time with my family because of kind of being the black sheep in a sense. So it was very sad in the sense of my birthday, which is only 2 weeks after Christmas, which is great, which I don't, anyway. My biggest goal was to have lunch with my mother on my birthday, right? I didn't care about any other presents. I didn't care about anything other gifts that people were going to give me. I just wanted to spend time with my mother. And so coming from not having that family time around Christmas, 2 weeks before that, to wanting to spend time with my mother on my birthday 2 weeks later, it was very sad. It was very, I felt very shameful in a sense because there was nothing that I could control, but I didn't have that family time that we'd have years before and continually throughout my childhood. And so the upbringing was quite very celebrated. Christmas was a fun time. Like we always spent time around family. We always loved our family. Obviously there was dysfunction in the family, but we as a family settled that just for one day. And so we got around and played happy little families and stuff like that in a sense, and celebrated Christmas as a family. So obviously throughout the years with my parents breaking up and moving to Queensland and coming back to Queensland, there was a lot of dysfunction there as well. But my overall view is quite positive. But coming now into my 25, I'm 26 in a few weeks. So it's like the later years now as an adult, a young adult, is like the stress of having money to buy mum a gift and my sister and my nan and my family a gift. So it's I would hope to have enough money to be able to go, here mum, I appreciate you, I love you. This is a small token, but it's actually quite a minute token, if anything, that I get. So for my family, so for all that they have done for me, my gifts on special occasions like birthday and Christmas are nothing in comparison to what they've done for me. So which I feel a little bit inadequate.
Yeah, that can put a bit of pressure on us when you do that sort of thing. I grew up with my mother and my sister. My father died when I was young, so we used to go to the other relatives for their Christmas lunch and things like that, and I never felt like I belonged. So Christmas was never special for me, even from a young age. Yeah, you were looking forward to the presents, hoping to get something, but something you wanted, not a pair of socks from your auntie or something like that, but a toy that you wanted. But then there was always that apprehension about, was this just going to be another one of those days where by lunchtime I wanted to walk out of the place and disappear. And 9 years old, probably not the thing to be doing. But that seemed to be a problem. But then now, I'm watching my boys grow up, and they get pressure from their in-laws or other people to go to their place. So I've just turned around and said, well, to me, Christmas Day is not that important. It never was. It was always stressful. So now I look and go, right, I want them to, the best gift I can give them is for them to be happy and enjoy the day. And so my oldest boy, I'll be getting together with him on Sunday. That'll be our Christmas Day. I've already been down to Canberra to see my second oldest boy, and I've already caught up with my youngest one. So we've already pretty much had our Christmas already. And so they can then go to that family group and not have to sweat about the fact that, I should be here, I should be there. You get some people go, you got to be at auntie such and such's place at lunchtime, then you got to go somewhere else for dinner. That's not a Christmas as far as I'm concerned. It's not enjoying each other. It's not having that time together. And the focus on the presents. Well, I have a rule now. I buy for the grandkids, but I don't buy for anybody else, and nobody else buys for me. We spend time together. We go and have a meal. We relax and enjoy each other's company and think back over what we mean to each other. It just made life a lot easier.
And it doesn't have to be Christmas Day to do that, does it? A specific
That's
day.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we do. We do the same.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, what was Christmas Day was really, the date was selected to coincide with a pagan holiday, from what I understand. And so the end result is it's not really the birth of Christ that day. It's just a day that was selected. It's like the Queen's birthday. I don't think we actually celebrate her birthday on the Queen's holiday weekend. So that's another time of the year. It's just a date that's been selected. So really, is the day special, or is it the people in our lives that are special? I tend to think it's the people in our lives.
Well, that's true. I agree with you. And the arbitrary situation affects people when my daughter's mom and I split up. And then where's the child, going to spend Christmas Day? That day became important, but then it was a wrestling match, mental and emotional wrestling match. That, is she going to be with me on Boxing Day or Christmas Day? Or so I think it can get really complicated when in reality it's just a day, that someone's decided. So those broken families, I think, must have, certainly in my experience, it was got a lot of emotion around it.
Yeah. Well, I think of anyone who's got like a couple who are together and both of their parents, both home units are broken. Now they've got not just 2 places to worry about, they've got 4 places to worry about. Which one do they go to? For a while there, and that was, I was divorced from my first wife, who was the mother of my boys. The boys then also have, or one who's in Newcastle more than any, would have his local family on her side of the family there. So there were 3 places. But for a little while there, my first wife needed somewhere to stay. This was a number of years ago, for 3 months, which ended up being 3.5 years with me. So it was then the 2 of us in the same place. But as soon as she moved out, I just said to the boys, if she wants you to go to there for Christmas, go there for Christmas. We'll catch up either side of it. You don't need the hassles that go with it. And that's always been my belief, was the day not being important, but the impact that we have on each other being the most important thing.
Right. So that resilience and flexibility softened the whole problem.
That's it.
And I think for the children, that really helps if you have that resilience and flexibility. It makes it easier for them to manage as well, because they're torn as to who they should be with. And they shouldn't have to make those decisions.
That's exactly right.
They're really important decisions, aren't they?
Exactly. And it doesn't matter if they're adults with their own kids. It's still the same thing. Like I said, we're growing up, our job is not to turn our kids into a version of ourselves, like being carpenters or what I call it, sculptors. Our job is to be a gardener and nurture them, to be that role model for them so they can grow into the best people that they can possibly be. And you can only do that if you also don't put pressure on them to make those decisions, which are totally unfair to them. There's a no-win situation if there's only one particular period of time and they've got to choose between a number of different locations.
Yeah,
only one person's going to win in that, and then they're not going to win because there's all the angst and the anger that builds up from that.
Yeah, the legacy of Christmas, like in the worst case scenario, can last for months or the whole year. So how you manage these situations can make or break relationships.
That's it.
Not just a holiday. Yeah. So through experience, I learned to be more resilient, because my ex was, demanding that it be on this time. So we just learned to work around it. Now my daughter and I are 6,000 miles apart. She's in Portland, Oregon. but she's flying into Amsterdam on the 30th, and I'm meeting her there for New Year's for a few days. So we work around things.
Yeah, you eventually make whatever day that you get together the special day of the year.
That's right. Yeah. As you say, it's the relationship and the time you have that's important, not some particular day.
Yeah, you get a bit of an idea of how important the day is to somebody, and that, especially as you mentioned, some people, you know, the arguments or the angst and everything else might go on for a few months later. I've actually had things brought up that were 10, 15 years ago. You haven't let that go. And that by this stage, the memory's selective and everything else and distorted, and whatever happened on that day, nobody knows. But it's been remembered. And I remembered one in, we used to have to go down to Tokemore, where my wife came from a very large family, and we'd have everybody down there, and it always seemed to be there were arguments over Christmas. And I remembered a carving knife being thrown across the kitchen by one of her sisters at one of her other sisters' husbands, and landed up in the door.
Oh, phew.
Missed him. But yeah, the tensions that come out, because I think there's so many pressures that are put on us, and that's probably the main thing to look at is how do we deal with those pressures, and how can we look at them in a different way to reduce the impact of them. Because, you know, this is a time of year that a lot of men are single, who are separated from their kids, will be on their own, and they're contemplating taking their lives. Suicide rates at this time of year are quite high. So it goes from, you know, all the advertising on TV, special time of the year, all the songs are about special time of the year, but the stress that goes with it. But it's, you know, I know that, Paul, you mentioned before about, you know, hope is the starting point for everything we do, and from that we get optimism and we can move forward. How do we get into that state, and how do we keep it going?
I think if you're leading up to Christmas and you know it's a stressful time because you're going to be on your own, one of the first things is if you get invitations to go anywhere, don't refuse them. Because you never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to transpire from that. I mean, somebody out of the goodness of their heart has offered for you to be with them on Christmas Day, which is, to all intents and purposes, a family day, a get-together day. If they recognise you're on your own and they invite you, go. You know, go. You never know. You might just enjoy yourself. You know, make some really good friends. You know, despite everything we've said earlier about, you know, it can be frantic with family, but yeah, do that. But if you haven't got that, and you know it's a time where, all right, it's one day, but in our psyche, it's an important day, and it's a family day, it's a get-together day. Make a plan. Do something. Volunteer. Go and help out in the local hospital, in the local shelter, in the local residency care home. But do something that day where you will be with other people, not just on your own.
That's it. Well, I
think that's really important to make that plan.
2 years ago for Christmas, the Samaritans had their breakfast, and I think we fed over 1,200 people, and you know, gave out gifts and everything else, and just to be of service. And I went home later on, and you know, exhausted from the day and all the rest of it, but had no angst or worries about not having seen the family. I knew I was seeing them either just before that or I saw them over the next few days. But yeah, Andy, with the energy side of things, the EFT, and all, you understand that side of it so powerfully. When you look at family and the pressures that we impose on ourselves, but as Paul had said, if somebody else asks you to come and spend some time with them, there shouldn't be family pressures. And the person who's asked you is somebody who's not family, who wants you to be there. So the energy is completely different. The expectation would be completely different too, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think if you have an invitation from someone who knows that they're reaching out to you, they want you to be enveloped in that family, they must have a pretty confident sense that they can provide that welcome. You know, what we're talking about on the downside is emotional reactivity. If you know, where are the kids going to be this time? You know, if one person is getting demanding and upset, then that would be an emotionally reactive situation. Whereas what's possible is that there are families out there and groups, not necessarily families, that that really have something to offer, and that sense of inclusion and acceptance. And so for some of us, and for some of the men I've spent time with, it's hard to let that in. It's an old saying, no one can love you more than you love yourself. And you know, a lot of us are raised with selflessness is more respectable than selfishness. But I think there's a sense of self that needs to be within us to be able to accept good things. I know I've been a pretty good self-sabotager through my life. You know, you get this good and then how can I screw it up? But that can be very intense for people, like, oh no, I couldn't possibly. And that's a good one to, as Paul was saying, if you can get over that and say yes, it can change your day, change your life.
Absolutely.
Because if somebody invites you to their family or whatever, it's because that they feel that you're going to fit in, you're going to add to the day. They're not going to ask you to come if you're not going to add to the day. And so they've already got a higher expectation of you than maybe you've got of yourself. You know, and as people talk about, you know, I've got to be selfless, I've always got to be there for other people. Well, if you're always there for other people and you don't take some time out to be a little bit selfish and look after yourself, then what are you going to give them when they need you and you're totally worn out? You're robbing them. So being selfish is not a bad thing. It's the intent behind the selfishness. If it's to get your energy back, to feel happier in yourself, to go back and then add to somebody else's life, then that's quite a selfless thing to do, in being selfish in that way.
I often compare it to a well to a river. If you go to a well too often, it's dry and you have nothing left to give. But if you allow that stream to come through you from others to you and pass it on, then it never ends. It's a flow. And I think it took me a long time to realize that accepting the care and love of and appreciation of others made me stronger. And the act of passing that on, and this is what my work is really, is caring for the men and women that I work with. So it's a way of passing on the love and care and understanding I get. Excellent. And I think, you know, if you're not doing that, giving and receiving is a cycle. If you break one of them, you break it all.
It's just like clogging the pipe up. Nothing's going to flow. It just breaks down from there. So Thomas, you know, from your young age and everything else, how's this gelling with you? What's your thoughts around it?
Yeah, I think like what you guys are saying is very on the money. I think whilst you guys were talking there, I'm thinking, well, like, how does that, as you said, how does that gel with me? And I think we can get as a male in this mindset that we're not valued, that we're isolated, that we're alone, that no one wants to spend time with us. But as Paul said, if someone sends you an invitation to go somewhere, take it. Why? Because they value you, and you are valued in their eyes, in their life, and in their family. And so they're not extending an invitation out of spite. They're not extending an invitation. Well, they could, but generally, they're not extending the invitation because out of hatred, because you've produced value in their life. And the moment you produce value in their life, they understand that you might not be going through the best time right now as a male in this Christmas experience or period, but we're still going to extend the invitation, because not only we value you, but you could be valued to people that are also coming to the lunch or the dinner. And that's what really our hope, or when I say our hope in the sense of speaking from me, right now I'm sitting in my office at Soul Cafe, and Alan and the Freemasons have done a lot of support for Soul Cafe, but Soul Cafe is a homeless cafe in Newcastle that provides meals to the vulnerable and needy of the city. And so far this year, we've already produced 40,000 meals to those that are suffering. Today, we had our Christmas lunch. And so over between 300 and 350 people came through our doors today that you would expect to spend Christmas alone. These people don't have a foundational family. These people don't have access to their kids. These people don't have support around them. And most of them actually don't have a safe place to live. And so our hope, as in Soul Cafe's hope, was to provide a table for people to sit at, despite of where they've gone in life or what they've done, what they've experienced, the decisions that they've made, that a seat at the table of one that doesn't judge them, because who are we to judge? But two, that allows us as volunteers, as staff members, to produce value in their life. And that was our biggest hope, was to provide value in their life. And so every male, every female, every kid that walked in them doors today received an incredible meal of ham, turkey, and vegetables, and dessert. And also they walked out with gifts from charities and companies within Newcastle. And this is another thing. You might think that you're alone, but there's services in your community that are there to help you to get through certain stages in life. Soul Cafe being one, but the buckets for the men's that come through our door are provided by Kayanis, Newcastle. The handbags, which I showed before, these handbags are filled with gifts that ladies need, diet, sanitary stuff. They're donated by Share the Dignity, and also post Christmas we have. Now this is my office, right, and it's been bombarded with all this stuff, which is great stuff, but I had to move stuff to sit on this lounge that had been covered in the last 2 days. And then post Christmas, they can get a hamper. This is our hampers. It's got a whole lot of goodies on it. So a gentleman will get a bucket. A woman will get a handbag, and also food bank. We've brought hampers for them. So there's a lot of stuff that we try and provide to them to produce value in their life. And by the way, that wasn't a plug from Soul Cafe or Kawana or Chetty.
But it's definitely a way of saying thank you to the people who have put so much in. But one of the things, when I've worked, I've gone along to something, I shouldn't say work, I went along and I gave was of service to the people who were there. I had one of the best jobs, and my job was to actually go around, not only to serve people, to go down and sit and talk with them. Oh my 100%. God, the stories that I got from people, the richness of their past and everything else, that added so much to my life. So by being there and being of service, I got this massive gift from them. It's like those businesses that are supporting it as well. They're getting that gift of being able to give. They feel better about themselves. So if somebody is worried about the fact that they are in a position where people are giving them charity and they feel inferior because of that, don't, because there's always an equal exchange. People think an exchange has got to be money, but energy. When you provide service to somebody, you're giving your energy, and there's an energy exchange that comes back. Otherwise, this stuff wouldn't happen all the time. So if you're in that position and somebody asks you, come around to our place for dinner. Why are they asking you? Unless there's somebody who likes to set up punch-ups, as you were alluding to before, then it's not going to be a problem. It's because they want you there, because they know that they want to add to you, because there's something about you that they cherish. And by being in that situation around those people, you're going to feel better as well, which means your energy goes up, and that gets fed back to the people in the group. And as you were saying, Andrew, about things flowing, this is how it continually moves and everything goes. And if you just step back from wanting, feeling the misery, it won't be long before the joy comes in and the whole day changes. And you just realise, hey, I've got a family.
Yeah, and I just said my dad worked as a psychiatric nurse. I worked in an institution in the 70s. There are so many situations that when you're outside of them, they look bleak. But at the tables in the Soul Cafe, in the 10 years that my men's group in Vancouver provided Christmases, in mental institutions that I've worked in various situations, having the sense of humor and being with people in a way that meets them where they are for who they are, not what they've achieved or what what car they drive. That is where life has meaning. And you can have so much fun. I mean, I just had that flash of working with 60 or 70 people on a chronic ward when I was exactly the same age as Thomas. And finding the soul, finding the value in people who had were probably never going to be outside of that ward, but it taught me to meet people where they are and or who they are rather than what they've done. And I'm impressed because I think we're all saying that too in your way.
Yeah.
I just want to pick.
Yep. Sorry, I'm going to pick up on a couple of things that you said there, because if you are invited to go somewhere and you're on your own, and you might not have a lot, you might feel a bit under pressure then to provide a gift or something for the person you've accepted to go and be with. If you haven't got a lot, there's nothing wrong with saying, I'm not flush. Is there any other way I can help you? Can I help you prepare? Can I help you on the day? Can I help in some other way? So you can be you can feel self-worth, and you can serve them as well being there. I don't think there's anything wrong in saying that. I think for men, though, they would find it difficult. A lot of men would find that difficult to say that. But that first step of actually accepting, and the second step of saying something like that, if it's appropriate for you, is a huge door opener for you of life.
That's it.
For life. And also these organizations, the Soul Cafe, the Samaritan's Meal, all these organizations, they don't run by themselves. They need volunteers. They welcome volunteers with open arms, and you become part of that family. And I think you benefit from it greatly, but so do the others. So it's a win-win situation for everybody, isn't it?
See, one's time and energy is probably the most powerful and most valuable gift that you can actually give to somebody. So if you are on your own, go and volunteer with one of these groups and experience that, help them, help other people. And there's how you make your payment. This is how if you feel that you need to give a gift, you're giving a massive gift. Sit down with people and hear their stories. Connect with them at a heart level, not at an intellectual level. Yeah, the stories might be quite impressive and everything else, but the person who's behind it, listen to the actual voice itself and what's behind all of that. And when you do that, you really connect. As I say, you've got 2 eyes and 2 ears and 1 mouth. You use them in that proportion. Watch, listen, ask a few questions, get into a conversation. That's why I love these campfire chats, because every time we do it, the conversation just keeps flowing. I quite often keep an eye on the clock to go, make sure I don't keep going over, because it's very easy to do, because they become quite enjoyable. And I always come away from here with so much new knowledge, and also feeling great that, yes, we are building a community where people are coming together and being supportive, which is what I really enjoy. But one of the things... Yep, go ahead.
One thing that we can do, even in the men's group that I was in, we had standards of honor and keeping your word and being, the best man you could be. But also that could affect men. They would begin to compare themselves, and while it was good and supportive, there were casualties. There were men who had a dramatic. Well, one fellow I know committed suicide because he couldn't live with the mistakes that he made, and so I think that affected me because he couldn't just come to the men and say, look, I fucked up. He couldn't do it. He was part of this group. He performed lots of public service and things with us. But when he was in shame, there was no way out. And so, we've been talking about, disagreements and things like that. But when we have an opportunity to look at what we're actually doing to each other by our expectations, our social expectations, the people that are guests of the Soul Cafe, are as important as anyone else. And I guess what I was trying to say is that we had standards and we thought we were doing a good thing, and it was, but there needed to be more awareness to the and ability to fail in because failure meant in several cases I'm done. So we can't, just as men setting standards, but also bringing everyone with us is important.
That's it. Yeah, we're not separate from everybody else. We're really together, and that's important. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, just looking at the time, we've been talking for a little while there, so I thought any final points that you'd like to sort of leave with everybody besides, Christmas wishes for everybody, because this will be going out. This will be on Friday, just before Christmas, so everyone will get a chance to see it. So, Andy, any sort of message or final words you'd like to share with everybody?
Well, just remember you're important. Remember you're important to someone, and what you give is important, and sometimes what you receive is important. When someone opens your gift and they go, wow, that's a tremendous feeling. And when you run a cafe and you deliver lunches for 300 to 350 people, that is a gift of importance as much as it was for each of those. So be willing to receive what life gives you and continue to give at the rate you can, and have a wonderful holiday. And 2020, we'll see clearly what happens then.
Excellent. And Paul?
Well, I wanted to pick up on something Thomas said earlier on as well about men being able to say it's okay to make mistakes. And I watched a film quite recently, and there was a line in there which really resonated with me, is that, look, there are no mistakes, only decisions. Now, whenever anybody makes a decision, they make the best decision they can at that moment in time, with the information they've got to make that decision at that moment in time. If it didn't work out, then there's no such thing as failure. It's only feedback based on that decision. So remove the word mistake from your vocabulary and see if you can move forward from that as a result of mistakes are only decisions.
Yeah.
Decisions are the best thing that you can make at the time. Move on if it didn't work.
That's it. That's why I believe that the word shame, we shouldn't be using the word shame. Yes, I've got a lot of regrets in my life, but I've got no shame at all because the decisions I made were made with the information I had at the time. I didn't make a decision that went against those, which I would have been ashamed of if it hurt somebody. But I did the best I could with the information I had. So
Absolutely.
I've got no shame around that. I regret that I didn't have better information at the time to make better decisions, but that's about it.
Yeah. Now, I mention that now because this is the time where a lot of men will be reflecting on their year.
Mm.
And that's important to remember. If you're reflecting, then remember what we've just said.
Mm.
But also, if you're thrust into a situation where you're in a family gathering or an extended family gathering, I was very fortunate with my mother-in-law. We got on like a house on fire. We had no problems at all. I mean, everybody has their ups and downs, but in general, absolutely fine. Well, I know people that don't get on anywhere near as well. Now, one of the biggest things I learned over the years was a 30-second rule. If you're thinking of intervening in a conversation or responding to something that's been said by a family member, 30-second rule is a wonderful test. You sit back, you think about it. Should I really be saying this? Should I be really responding? What's the consequences of this? You can analyze all that in 30 seconds. Yeah. And by that time, the moment's passed anyway. So it works a treat. So the 30-second rule is my gift for Christmas. So Merry Christmas, everybody.
No fun at all.
So Thomas, what about yourself?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate both what Andy and Paul have said. One, that you're important, and two, it's the decisions that you make are the best ones for the decision for the point in time that you made them. So I think that when we step into this time of year, yes, we can be bogged down by them decisions that we made that we label mistakes, but really understand that you are important to not only someone in your world, or multiple people in your world, but also yourself. You as a human being are important because there's something that you have been gifted with that you are to fulfill in this world, and that's different with everyone. And so, don't let your mindset be narrowed down in the sense that I'm not valued, I have nothing, I'm alone, because you're not. There's so many. It might look bleak for you right now, but there's someone in your life that's about to send you a text message to say, hey, come to this meeting, or come to lunch, or come grab a coffee, or come hang out, or whatever. And I challenge anyone and everyone that's listening to this. There's definitely one person in your sphere that you know that is going to struggle this Christmas. I challenge each and every one of you to invite them to something that you're going to. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be hard. But you know what? The value that you have for them will provide value for them into everyone else. And that might just be the message or the invite that they need to take the next step into 2020. Because as Andy said, the statistics aren't great this time of year. And so let's not let statistics overrule what the season or the reason for the season is. And that's to connect with people that you love and value. And there are people that you might not spend time with that you should, or your heart's tugging, but spend time with them. Even if it's a quick message to say, I appreciate you, wishing you a Merry Christmas, love you, mate, or whatever. There's something that you can do to brighten to put a star in their life, in a sense, to put a little ray of sunshine, a little ray of hope, so that they can know that they're valued. So yeah, Merry Christmas.
Excellent. Thank you. And that's one thing that for everybody who's listening to this, you're not alone at Christmas time. We've got over 80 one-on-one conversations that we've had in the Campfire project. We've had, or it would be 44 these panel discussions by that point. Most of them have had 4 people in, or otherwise 3 people on screen. There's a lot of people there talking about what they've been through and everything else. There's a chance there for you to connect with them by listening to them as well. And in that, find some answers for yourself. So if you're lonely, just get onto the program, the Campfire project, and look at some of those videos. They're all in the file section. You don't have to go searching for them. You can find them in the files. Go in there. There are PDFs. Just go through the list, see who you want to listen to, and listen to those. Spend a bit of time there. But as all of you have said, spend that time with other people, because everybody's got a value. There are no 2 people on the planet with the identical personality. And that being the case, that everybody on the planet has a unique gift of some form or another, separate to everybody else. And unless you allow people to see that gift, you're not going to be able to feel better about yourself. And at the same time, you're going to rob them of that experience of experiencing that. So if you don't think you've got a value, think again. If you don't think you're good enough, get over it. If you think you're too good, get over yourself. That's always been my approach to things. And connect, because everybody's got a value, and there's a lot of people out there who care at this time of year. So again, Andy, Paul, Thomas, thank you very much for being on today. And for everybody who's listened in, and we'll see you on the next Campfire project panel discussion. But have a, no buts, having a great Christmas, and have a safe New Year as well. And we'll be more of these posts going up over Christmas, New Year as well. And we'll see you on the other side.
Yeah, thanks, Alan. Nice to meet you, Paul. Nice to see you again, Thomas.
Yeah, nice to meet you all.
See you all later. Bye for now.
Cheers. Bye for now.